Hello, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be taking a look at what I'm hoping will be a great option in a value diver or value dive watch for folks with smaller wrist sizes. This is an Invicta Pro Diver, and this is model number 8932OB. Let's get started. Alright, so if you tuned into my channel, you know that I really love dive style watches. And when you think of diver watches, you often have to consider the most iconic one ever, arguably, which is the Rolex Submariner. This Invicta Pro Diver is definitely an homage or paying tribute to the Submariner in its own way. And I'm very drawn to what I'm seeing so far. If we look at early versions of the Rolex Submariner on Rolex's website, you can see 1953, 1954. The earliest renderings were at 38mm on the case diameter, and that evolved all the way up to 40mm for the longest time until 2020 when it reached 41mm, which by today's standards is still a smaller case size for a modern dive watch. So our Invicta Pro Diver 37.5mm is going to check a lot of boxes for what I like about a traditional dive watch. Let's look at InvictaWatch.com to see MSRP $395. Invicta is very notorious for printing these huge MSRPs and having a deep discount. I don't like that. I wish they would just cut to the chase. You're getting this watch for around the $50 to $60 range all day long on the internet. I will leave links in the description. Key specs, again, we said 37.5mm stainless steel case, mineral crystal. This is a quartz moved watch. It's a Seiko PC 32A movement. And perhaps the only big limitation on the size is the bandwidth of the bracelet at 18mm at the lugs. Could limit our upgradability with straps and bands in the future, having that smaller lug width. With that in mind, let's go for the dismount and show you the factory bracelet and probably why I'm going to keep this on here. It is a decent looking, it is a rolled edged, hollow end linked bracelet, and it's held together by split pins. We do have a folding lock in place clasp on our signed back plate there, and economically we do have a stamped hinge system. This is stainless steel, lightweight, very mild-mannered bracelet. Do have some micro adjusts there, which is nice to see. No wetsuit extension, but still a nice touch with the signature on the plate, and nice elements there with the polish down the center. I do see some fingerprints happening there with that, and I would like to have seen just sort of a satin or a brushed finish throughout, but I can't complain too much. The unidirectional bezel is a 120 click bezel, and it ratchets one way, and it does not have a lot of back play, which is very nice to see. There is a very slim coin edge on this bezel, so it's a little awkward to deploy, but I'll tell you what, it's very responsive, very crisp, very clean, and I'll tell you what, there is no back play on this unidirectional bezel. I'm very, very impressed with the quality and the fit and the finish of this system. Very nice ratcheting. It's 120 tooth, as I mentioned, and it is all teeth. It does not go backwards. Very nice. All right, just put this thing back on a pillow just so we can take some closer looks at it. And again, to see the design elements, again, it's very much an homage or inspired by the Rolex Submariner. That's hard to deny, but it does say Invicta quite a bit throughout, so it's not ashamed of itself. And this size, you know, again, with Invicta, I always think of these huge, gaudy, obnoxiously oversized watches that are just screaming at you, and this one is, with its size, is very subdued, very mild-mannered, and it's going to draw attention because of that. It's actually going to give you more attention because it's not yelling at you. And I love the size, and I love, you know, the appointments. I think they've done a great job here. The proportions are perfect for what I'm seeing. And, you know, again, my only criticism so far is just that bracelet width. I'm not used to that, but that could be more sporty, and arguably it's going to fit and be compatible with a lot more users. So the first thing I always notice is the crystal, and this is a mineral crystal. We do have the Cyclops calling out that date only complication. And it actually looks really good to me. You know, it's a nice magnification. And for the most part, everything is easy to read and see as well. We do have the applied Invicta logo, which is sort of that Swiss cross center with the wingspan surround. We do have that repeated with the counterbalance on our seconds hand. You can see that wingspan is pretty pronounced and does a really good job balancing out that second hand, which extends all the way to the chapter ring with that lollipop at the very end. So nice touch there. And again, it's Invicta trying to flex their brand a little bit and straying from the clone type homage boilerplate persona that you would typically see in the submariner diving genre. So, however, I must point out the hour and the minute hands, not so much. They're pretty much tipping the hat to the submariner with the Mercedes hour hand and the sort of like minute hand. Another obvious variant besides the quartz movement versus automatic mechanical movement is the crown. This is a non-screw down crown. It's a gasketed plunge system, but it's very easy to pull and very smooth turning and precise, well-made crown. And I really appreciate the fact that we're still getting a 200-meter water resistance equivalent with a non-screw down crown. That's rare to see on a diver watch. Let's quickly confirm some dimensions. We said 37.5 millimeters on the case. If we count the bezel, though, the bezel overhangs just a little bit. We're at 38 millimeters if we count that rotating bezel. If we factor in the crown, we're right at 40.5 millimeters. So this watch is still going to have some good presence on the wrist. Lug to lug, we're just over 47 millimeters, depending on where we pinch. Last but not least, our case height, we are at 11.6 millimeters. Let's confirm our weight out of the box. We are at 4.3 ounces. And of course, grams for my friends overseas, we're at 121 grams with our stock bracelet. I will reweigh this as soon as I get some links out of this thing so I can fit my 6 3/4 inch wrists. So how do you mention value diver watches without bringing in a Casio Duro? And this watch is world famous and it is awesome. I love the watch so much. A question I often get, again, this is a 44 millimeter case diameter, a big wrist presence. The number one question I get from a lot of folks is, will this fit my smaller wrists? And that's why I want to put this in perspective and put our Invicta Pro Diver up against our Casio Duro, which is sort of the benchmark for value dive watches, as you may know. And you can see there's a pretty significant difference in footprint and how much real estate it's going to take up on your wrists. So I wanted to give you just sort of a side-by-side shot here. What do you think? Well, since I have my Duro out, we might as well just do a quick Lume test of our Invicta Pro Diver just to see how they stack up as well and give you an example of the Lume on the Pro Diver. There's a lot less size to the indices and to the hands on the Pro Diver, and as I suspected, the Lume treatment that I'm seeing is not amazing. And I'm having a real hard time picking this up on camera, but neither the Duro or the Invicta are very good with Lume, and that's pretty known. But I can see this with my eyes, but it's having a hard time picking up on camera, and I'm not thrilled. Both of these watches could improve with better Lume. We're going to go ahead and pop off the band and get it adjusted so we can get a closer look at the case back here. As we zoom in, you can see we've got some good branding there and a nice screw down case back, which I like to see, calling out the vitals there, and we have sort of a blasted etched in insignia on the back center. Pretty nice. Through the magic of YouTube, we are now fully sized and adjusted. I ended up taking 3 links out of this bracelet, and it was not fun. The push pins or the split pins were very hard to get out with that taper to the watch band, so use care when trying to get out your split pins, especially on a tapered band. This band starts at 18 millimeters and tapers down to about 16.5 millimeters, and it sort of seizes up the links and makes it kind of bind and catches the pin a little bit. You can see that play there. So just keep that in mind, that adjusting this thing, be patient and be careful. Don't scratch your watch. If you are concerned about it, please bring it to a professional so they can properly size your bracelet for you, or pop the bracelet off and put something else on. But keep in mind, it's going to be an 18mm strap or band width. All right, the moment of truth, and the moment I've been waiting for, is to get this thing on wrist and see how it factors in and how it shapes up. And wow, it looks and feels great. It is not too small. I was very concerned that it was going to come across and be too small, but you can see it's got great wrist presence, and it's giving me that traditional diver vibe. It's giving me a retro vibe, because again, watches for the longest time were very respectable in size and weren't just over the top outrageously large. So this one feels great. It looks awesome, and I'm very, very happy. And it's holding its own against our Duro. What do you think? It's a handsome looking watch. The Duro, you can see, is a big watch, comparatively speaking. And I really like this bracelet. I wasn't prepared to like it. I didn't like sizing it, but now that it is, it runs very nice. It feels wonderful. Oh, I almost forgot. We got to get a quick weight on this, and then we'll wrap up this video. Size for my wrist, we're at 3.88 ounces and 110 grams. So making it all the more sporty by taking some of that weight out of the bracelet. Well, that's it. That's a wrap, and I hope this gave you a good insight and look at this watch, the Pro Diver from Invicta, and it is the 8932OB, and I really like it. And for the money, this could very well be the best value dive watch you can find, especially if you have a smaller wrist. The pros and cons are pretty straightforward. I've mentioned most of them. The biggest one I'm seeing on the con side would be the poor Lume. That aside, it's hard not to recommend this watch at this price point. That's what I got for this time. Let me know your thoughts. If you found this helpful, please like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.